If you've been curious about pastel pencils but didn't know where to start, this video is for you. Over the next 20 minutes, I'll guide you through a fun step-by-step project. You'll discover everything that you need to know to get started, including a 12 set of colored pencils that are artist grade and that you can pick up for $20 or less. I'll teach you how to sharpen your pencils, create textures, mix colors, and make sure you stay to the end because I'm also going to show you how to create a beautiful gradient background in just a few minutes. Pitt Pastel Pencils by Faber-Castell are artist grade and incredibly high quality. The surface that I'm using for this project is a 9 by 7 inch piece of pastel mat in Buttercup. If you are unfamiliar with pastel mat, let me give you a quick overview. This is a very specifically textured surface that allows you to layer pastels over and over and over again without a lot of dust. I have found that this paper gives you more control over your materials, but it does come at a slightly higher cost. Less expensive papers that can be used for pastels have a texture, but it's more of a waffle texture, and you don't really get tons of layers. If you're on a really tight budget and pastel mat is just out of reach for you right now, you could substitute in a toned piece of Rembrandt pastel paper. Look for a color that's similar to Buttercup pastel mat. Throughout this project, I'll also be using a blending stump, but if you don't have one available, you can substitute a finger in for this instead. And I'm also using a blade, but you can use a dedicated sharpener for pastels if you would prefer that option instead. Now that we've got all of our materials set up, let's get started with sketching in our subject. Using a deep orange pastel, I sketch in the very basic shapes and I make sure that the bird fits on my paper. This long beak is going to be slightly problematic if I don't get my proportions right. So before I come in with tons of detail, I want to make sure that that is in the right place and that it isn't going to be going to the edge or off my page. I want some space around the beak so that it can breathe. As I get more and more comfortable with my sketch, I can add a little bit more pressure and more details. This allows me to start off loose and not have to get everything perfect from the beginning. If you're incredibly uncomfortable with this approach, sketching right on your pastel mat, you can easily print out the reference photo and you can add some pastel on the back. Then place it right on top of your surface and draw over the outlines. This will press your pastel right onto the surface and will transfer everything over accurately. If you do opt to trace, don't allow tracing to become a crutch. I want you to continue to practice your drawing in your sketchbook so that you develop that hand-eye coordination. One way that I have developed my hand-eye coordination is by drawing my subject several times. So I do a first sketch and then I come right over the top with another color. Here I am coming over the top with blue, and I'm going to show you how I prepped and sharpened this pencil because it's a little different than regular pencils. Pastel pencils have a soft, delicate core, and if you sharpen this with a dull sharpener, you can break not only the tip of the pastel pencil, but you can actually create cracks in the pastel pencil that go all the way through. That being said, there are some great sharpeners out there with sharp blades that can give you a nice point, but I prefer to sharpen mine with a blade. Here I'm using just a raw razor blade and I've attached some tape to the back so that it acts as a cushion for my thumb. I use my non-dominant thumb to guide the blade into the wood and then away from my body. As long as I am moving away from my body, I cannot cut myself. Sometimes this sharpening technique takes some practice and some trial and error, but as you continue to practice, you'll figure out how hard to push the razor blade so that you go through the wood and not into the pastel. Then you just push the razor blade out and away, continuing all the way around until all of the wood casing is removed from the pastel core. This is typically where I stop my sharpening process. Now I have quite a bit of the core exposed and I can use different parts of the core to create different marks. But if I need an ultra sharp point, all I need to do is take my pastel pencil and rub it at an angle on some sandpaper. I don't like a lot of dust in my workspace, so I tend to do this over a small little box that I can then remove and throw away immediately so that I'm not breathing these dust and powders while I'm working. As I come through with my blue pencil, taking a second pass at my drawing, I am adding more detail. I'm now breaking down the feathers into smaller units, and I'm making sure that the proportions with the features like the eyeball and the feathers around the face are all accurate. There were some subtle but important changes that I made from sketch 1 to sketch 2, and that's why this has become such a pivotal part of my drawing process. Now that I feel really comfortable with my proportions, it's time to begin to build up the darks in this drawing. I started with the dark brown in this set. It's number 175. And beginning with the dark brown allows me to lay in my darks, but to still have some places where I can make them darker with black if I need to later. As I go through the entire drawing with this dark brown, I'm not paying attention to all the subtle changes in the shadows because that is too much detail too early on. Instead, I want to get a really good sense of the value in the lighting on this bird. So I'm looking for those dark areas in the shadows where one feather might overlap another. And as I apply the shadows, I'm using short, quick strokes that mimic the texture in the feathers. I can continue to build up these textures later and throughout the drawing, but starting early on and making sure I know what direction the feathers are growing in allows me to have a really good sense of form throughout the entire drawing. From my initial sketch, I now have a drawing that has a lot more form and dimension, and I'm going to use this as a template as I begin to get more specific with my color choices. I'm going to work on the blue-green feathers first. So I grab my dark green, my dark blue, my light green, and I begin to prep those pencils so that I have all the pencils that I'm going to need for my initial color impressions. I start with my dark pencils first, and I begin to add some of those dark, rich blues and greens into the shadow shapes. And then I transition them into the lighter areas using my light blue and my light green. I don't have the exact color of these feathers in my 12 set, so I use combinations of blue and green to get that nice teal turquoise color. Pastel pencils are one of those mediums that rely on layers. So work section by section, but don't take the section of feathers all the way to the finish line right now. Instead, get those initial color impressions in and then move to another area that's similar. Here I started with the feathers in the head, then I moved down into the wing and the back of the body and towards the tail. I'm using very similar color recipes here. Once I found something that worked, I apply it to the rest of the drawing so it stays very uniform. But I don't want to cover up the entire yellow paper at this point. I just want to get a feel for how the colors are working together. Once I've got that nice color impression throughout the blue-green feathers, I transition with that exact same approach into the orange feathers on the chest. I start with the darkest, deepest orange in the 12 set, and then once I have a good feel for the texture of the feathers and where the darks are, I begin to transition into the lighter orange and the yellows. At the very end, I come through with the light blue on the right side of the chest. Blue and orange are complementary colors. They're going to neutralize one another. So this will help me take the intensity down in the shadows a bit. And I chose the light blue instead of the dark blue because the chest is not an incredibly dark area and I don't want to make it too dark, especially this early on. With all of my color relationships established, including some of the relationships in the stick that the bird is sitting on, I can now come in and begin blending some of these colors together. I'm using a blending stump, and one of the reasons this is such a great tool for this project is because the drawing is relatively small, and so a blending stump allows me to get into the nooks and crannies and to help me continue to create that texture. I'm not just going through the entire drawing and rubbing it out with a blending stump. I'm looking at my photo reference and I'm continuing to match the direction that the feathers are growing in. Blending your pastel pencils with a blending stump or your finger allows you to move the pastel around the paper to create new color combinations and to make sure that you don't have any excess pastel in a particular area that would get in the way of future layers. And future layers is exactly where we're gonna be for the majority of the rest of this piece. We are gonna go over our initial color impressions with more pastel pencil. And you can layer this material quite a bit, especially when you're working on pastel matte. But you can't layer your materials forever and ever. You are gonna get to a point where this very thick material isn't gonna stick to your paper anymore because your paper is so loaded up. So be efficient, try to make your decisions intentionally and strategically, and be very thoughtful about your values throughout the entire process. One thing that I love about pastel pencils that's different from colored pencil or watercolor is that you can put your light values over the top of your dark values. And that allows me to put the highlights right on top of the blues that I've established in the feathers on the head. That is one of the reasons that toned paper works so well for this medium. And you'll notice as I continue to build up with my layers that that yellow isn't really showing through at all unless I want it to. But this buttercup color is a very predominant color in the background in my photo reference. And I love the way that that yellow plays off of the blues in the feathers of the head and the oranges on the chest. So I am going to allow the yellow toned paper to do most of the work in the background. And decisions like this allow you to use a material like pastel pencil very quickly and efficiently. As I moved from rendering the details in the head to those details in the wing, I noticed that I really didn't have the feathers established the way that I wanted them to in the wing yet. So I came through with my white and I drew each individual feather along the edge of the wing, those larger feathers. And then I mapped in some of the highlights with my white pastel pencil. I don't want these areas to be white at the end, but I did need a really clear map on where I was going. And I'm gonna be able to adjust and modify this white later on, making it appear a light blue or a light bluish green instead. The feathers on the wing I can treat as individual shapes, but as I move into the belly, these are more like hairs, and I lay in one stroke at a time. As I continue to layer more and more color in both of these different feather areas, I continue to lean into those two different textures. When I am in the belly, regardless of what color I'm using, I'm coming in with short strokes that are built up kind of like a fur or a hair texture. Then as I move over to the wing, I'm going to treat the feathers a little bit differently. These feathers are larger, so I can treat them as individual units, and I'm looking at the shape that each feather takes up. But I don't want too much attention drawn to any one feather, so I'm keeping the edges soft, and I am still treating the whole wing as one unit, even though I'm breaking it down into individual feathers. Right now, they feel very, very separate, but as I progress throughout the drawing, I have ways of unifying these different feathers together. Even though this is a small detailed piece, I very rarely needed to sharpen my pastel pencils. Only once or twice throughout the entire drawing did I grab my pastel pencil and sharpen it on a piece of sandpaper, and that was for little teeny tiny hairs that came off the feather, particularly towards the back. I might also have sharpened my pastel pencil for whiskers or eyelashes, but really that's the only time that you need them this sharp. With colored pencils, you're constantly working a really sharp point into the tooth of the paper, and you need that sharp point so that you can cover up the white flecks. But pastel is a completely different medium that doesn't require this kind of pressure and precision to get into the tooth of the paper. You can cover an area very opaquely without a sharp point. In the wing, I continued to layer and build up, and you can layer lights over darks, you can layer darks over lights, and even though I was treating each of these feathers more individually, I still wanted to make sure they made sense as a whole. Glazing can be a great way to unify an area. Hold the pastel pencil further back on the barrel and apply very light pressure. Then glaze the color transparently over an area. This will put a thin layer of color over something that you've drawn already, and it will allow everything to hold together a little bit more cohesively. I'm a right-handed artist, and for this piece, I got really lucky. There isn't anything in the right corner except for a gradient background, which I'm going to apply later. So I don't have to worry about my hands smudging as I build up layers and layers. But that's not going to be true for every single drawing. So be sure to have a piece of tracing paper, Glazing, or even a piece of printer paper handy that you can put under your hand so that you don't smudge or mess up areas that you finished as you move around the drawing. It is a huge benefit for you to pop around the drawing and not work on finishing one area at a time. Sometimes if we really zero into one area and don't take a look at the drawing as a whole, we can unintentionally create an area of focus that we don't want, or we can end up creating a drawing that isn't cohesive because we didn't have the full end in mind. The bird isn't 100% done, but it's definitely time to get started on that gradient background. I'm beginning with the light green, and I'm holding the pencil very far back on the barrel using just the side of the core to lay down a light layer. This is also a great way to sharpen your pencil because if you continue to rotate your pencil, you're going to naturally bring it to a sharp point. This does not have to be perfect with your execution because we're going to be blending it out with a blending stump. After a light layer of green, I come in with a light layer of blue, orange, and yellow. And I'm looking at my reference photo with the greens and blues concentrated towards the bottom and warmer colors transitioning towards the top. I also brought in that ivory, really light yellow in the 12 set to help transition the colors into the color of the background. Then, once I've got a nice light layer of all these colors, I'm coming in with the blending stump. And this allows me to work the colors together, to work out any of the texture that I don't want, and to make sure that everything blends seamlessly. The reason that this gradient background works so well and is so quick is because I'm utilizing the color of the paper to help me fill in the rest of the background. Once I've done several layers in the background and feel that it's complete, I'm going to come in and finish up the bird. And the biggest thing that I noticed right off was that the feathers in the wing were a little bit too light. So I'm working in glazes of light blue and light green to help unify that wing and to get it to look a little bit more like the photo reference. I don't actually want the whites to show up. I want these whites to really mix in with my other colors and help create light blues and greens. During the last phase of my drawing, I also tend to introduce more white and more black because I'm looking at those areas where I can push the contrast a little bit more. So in the head, particularly around the eye and near the beak in the feathers, I'm adding more blacks. I'm also paying attention to the beak. Where can it be darker, lighter? Where can I control the edges a little bit more? I've talked a lot about how I rendered the textures in the feathers, but I need the texture of the stump to look different. I don't want this to look like feathers. So I'm not using short, quick strokes. Instead, it's a little bit more of a rounded mark that's a little bit scribblier. This allows it to feel like that natural bark texture. I continue to jump around my drawing, making sure that everything works well together. While you're in the final phases of any drawing, it's great to step away, maybe even for a full day, get some space, and then come back and look at it with fresh eyes. Then jump around the drawing and refine it until you get it the way that you want. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, I bet you're going to love my online courses and free resources. Down in the video description, there is a link for a free project guide where I teach you how to intuitively mix colors. And once you're over on my website, you can learn about all the other courses that I offer. If you're ready to see more about what these pastel pencils can do, you're gonna wanna check out this video next, which documents my process working with these pencils for the very first time. There were some huge surprises and I can't wait to share them with you.